office of president. Mr. Starr.
Nominate Mrs. Smilovich.
Second,
No second is required.
let me ask them if they accept.
The nomination accepted. Are there any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Sharon Stewart, please.
Mrs. Stewart, accept. Any other nominations? Not seeing any. Nominations are now closed. Resolution resolved. So we have to vote. All right.
Are we voting for officers right now, or are we voting just to accept? Can we ask questions before we vote?
Like to ask questions?
Yes.
I'll answer the best I can.
Not you, but them.
Okay, all right, I'll just keep quiet.
I would like to ask each of you why you should be sitting in the presidency and what are your goals for the upcoming year? Jackie?
I think that based on my prior experience as a board member with Erie County Municipal and my managerial experience and legal experience and the president, my goal is to run the communication in the community and bring the district together.
I think I bring to the presidency transparency, accountability. I communicate as best I can with my fellow board members, but most importantly, I always keep in mind the staff and then most importantly our students, and making sure that everything they need is taken care of. My rapport with the administration is very good. I'd like to see an evaluation of our administration from the top down, our building principals, see what's going on in our middle high school with our assistant principals, if there's a need to separate the duties of the assistant principal and the athletic director. Follow through on the capital improvement project, making sure that that stays on time, and also evaluating the next 5 years of the district, where we're going, where we need to be.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody else has any questions for me.
Anybody else have any questions? All right. How do you want to do this?
So then do a vote on each.
We will do a vote on each candidate as Mrs. Smilovich is nominated first. We will do roll call on her nomination first. Mrs. Cassell.
Nay.
Mrs. Meisner.
A.
Mrs. Mislivy.
Nay.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mrs. Smilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Starr.
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart.
Nay.
So we have 4 yeses and 3 nays. No abstentions. Follow through?
There's no point.
No point. Okay. Mrs. Smilovich. Yep.
He's got to swear you in first.
Mrs. Smilovich. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New York,
of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully
the
discharge
duties of the office of Board President
the duties of the office office of board
of
president
the Tonawanda City School District
of the Tonawanda City School District
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Jack,
You're
you're up.
right here. Right here, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. This is second.
Jacqueline, meeting is yours. President. Right there.
You're set. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Joseph.
All right, Jack, you look at page 3.
I got it, yeah.
And you have to do the nominations now for the vice president, you see it?
Yep.
Underneath the blue?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, nominations are now in order for the office of vice president.
Oh, this,
Waiting for her to call me.
Glenn?
I'd like to nominate Jen Sylvie, please.
Do you accept? Ms. Levy?
yes.
Are there any other nominations for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Shaw.
Do you accept Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
And we have 2 nominations. Does anybody have any questions?
Nominated Shaw, I'm sorry.
Where's the?
Okay, thank you.
I would like to ask the two candidates the same questions that were asked Jackie and I. Mr. Shaw. Mr. Shaw, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I would point to my 38 years' experience in education. Of course, my 2 years of experience on the board. And my constant life here in this community. And my, again, the willingness that I think we've seen many, many tough times occur here in this district, not due to our own problems, because of the nature of what the state has done. And I want to commend Mrs. Stewart and Jen Levy for the fine job they've done. They certainly represent the standard of excellence that is hard to meet. And I want to commend them for what they have done and the job they have done. It's not an easy job. It's not easy to even be on this board during these most difficult times. It's not that. But I do point to my educational experience. That's it.
I look at the role of vice president as one of a support, just lending an ear, a listening hand, ear, helping hand whenever the president needs something done that they don't have time to do or cannot attend or be there or make phone calls. That's really what this role, I think, best represents, is just being a support system for the president. I feel like I've definitely been able to do my duty as vice president. It was a role that I enjoyed. And I enjoyed it very much, and I'd like to continue. And that's really all I have to say about that, my passion for the district. I don't have 38 years in the district, but, you know, I read my paperwork. I know what's going. That's all.
What are your goals for next year? What would you like to see? What direction would you like to see the board go to, and how are you going to help obtain that?
Oh, that's my main goal is, as always, just continuing with this capital improvement project, making sure that it goes smoothly and everything gets done that needs to get done. But mostly, in this time of fiscal crisis, making sure that we can keep low class sizes and good teachers in the classroom. That's my main goal. That has been my main goal. For me, that's the most important thing that we do here, is educating those kids. Obviously, there's a lot that surrounds that. Contracts, negotiations, issues, staffing, all of that, but that is my main goal. why I ran for the Board of Education, and still why I sit here.
Well, like I said, I would probably be very much mimicking what Jen just said. Of course, we have the capital project, which is a major program that we have to move forward. Already we've seen certain things that are changing in it because of whatever cost factors, whatever. We have to look at that very carefully and make sure the public gets what, of course, they voted for. Next, of course, we have the most difficult APPR negotiations, which the district has to conduct through our superintendent. A very sensitive, difficult area. I have my opinions on that, but that doesn't matter, because again, it comes down from SED and state ed. Gotta do what we gotta do. Contracts, needless to say. Limited money to try to settle contracts. And I think I would very much emphasize what Jen said. We had major reductions this past year due to the 2.1 million we were short. Again, not due to any fault of our own. In fact, I think we managed quite efficiently in our fiscal responsibilities. Dr. Van Time. But we still have more that we could be possibly short this year, and that's going to mean, it does mean further cuts. We're not now looking at cutting down to the bone, we're not looking at cutting further into the bone. Those cuts will be extremely difficult, even more difficult than the ones that were made this past year. And those concern me greatly, because obviously I would like to see the maximum amount of staff kept, not for the sake of just keeping people working, although that's a concern, but mainly, of course, for the class sizes and the quality of education that we can provide to the students and the public at large. Those are the challenges which obviously we're all aware of here. That's it.
I have one more question, but I don't know if anybody else has any questions first. No. How would you handle the confidentiality part of contract negotiations with prior co-workers or teachers that your students have had, or anything like that, to make sure that the integrity of the board is kept intact and that we are out looking in the best interest of our taxpayers?
Well, first, the negotiations, whether they be TAG or TEA or any other group, obviously is worked through our district superintendent. And it's our, as board members, regardless of whether you're in office or not, we must work through our chief officer, superintendent. I express our wishes, our desires, our direction. As far as direct communication with those groups, it obviously has to be done through our district representatives, our financial officer, and of course via the superintendent of schools. I don't see any other way it can be done. In fact, it would just hinder the settlement of contracts. Mainly, I mean, let's face it again, there are limited monies to deal with the situations that we have to do.
If it's confidential, I talk about it with my board members.
I have a follow-up question to that, because I actually had a personal incident, and this is why I'm asking. Have either of you ever given up personal information from the board that should not have been shared with teachers or the teachers union?
Teachers or the teacher unions.
Correct. Or administration union?
In that regards, I would say no. I did,
Not just board, but personal business.
no, no.
That's not true.
Well, then, you can debate that.
No, I
mean,
have.
I can specify one thing, an executive session that I believe I was in, that I know I was in error on at the beginning of my term. and I will be more than willing to share that. I shared it with Mrs. Stewart and expressed my apologies.
Have they personally contacted you about information about board members?
In what regards?
I mean, where are you going with this? Is this like an intern?
No, it's why should he be vice president, and if he is worthy of being in that position, and if he's in the best interest of this board.
And you mean, either Mr. Cesny or?
Yes, Mr. Cesny. Has Mr. Cesny contacted you about personal business for the board?
About like officers or stuff like that?
No, about fellow board members.
No.
That's not true.
Wow.
Mr. Shaw,
Go ahead, specify what was shared with you.
Okay, I actually foiled all the emails pertaining to a personal instance with my own child that you are named in going back and forth with Mr. Cesny in those emails. You discussed my personal business and my child in those emails. To me, that is not becoming of a vice president. That is not becoming of a board member. It's actually illegal because it's breaking confidentiality laws of my son. And to me, that doesn't say vice president. It really doesn't say board member, period. And I just want the public to know that this is what your other people are considering is making you vice president, and I'm concerned about the confidentiality. If you will talk about fellow board members and their personal business and their personal family business, why won't you talk about contracts to other teachers or to Ron Cesny? This is my concern, and I just wanted to voice that. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll respond. All right, in that particular thing, in any conversation concerned that one, I specified that I couldn't treat any regards to your son in any different manner than I would the public out there. I didn't know the specifics of what was involved with that staff member and your son and yourself and
I didn't mention the staff member.
well, okay, well, all right, okay. All I commented is that obviously it would have to go through the proper administration, principals, Mr. Newton, Dr. Newton, Dr. Van Tine, and that, I could really not, in a personal sense, deal with it as a board member. All right, and to that regards, a comment was made to me, and I said I really didn't know the situation, wasn't really something I should know or enter into as a board member, because for me to enter into that, I don't know the situation, and I'll be honest, it shouldn't be done at my level anyway. It should be done at either Dr. Van Tine's, or more appropriately, I'm sure Dr. Van Tine had it first done at the building principal level. But it wasn't something for me to deal with as far as commenting on how things were done, what was done, whatever. I wasn't going to really get into that, and that was, so you were corrected that there was a contact there, and that was my response. Because really, what else could I say? I would have been in any case, I would have made a misjudgment if I would have made one, which would have been inappropriate concerning either the staff members' involvement or your involvement, your parent, of course, or your son's situation, which I don't know your son, and I don't know what the particulars are. So,
Don't you think it's odd that the president of the union is contacting you, asking you about such an instance?
I'm just telling you what occurred, okay? I'm just telling you what occurred, all right? So I recall that, and, as far as discussing negotiations, I don't discuss negotiations with them, it's not my point to. Okay. I don't know what I can do to move things along. It's up to the board. One individual is not gonna move things along. In fact, he'll hinder it if you start interfering. So I hope that addresses, at least to the best extent that I can recall, in regards to your son. I really didn't, just that there was nothing I could really say or do about that. And that it should be done at another level, not at a Board of Education level.
Are there any other further questions on the nominees? Call a vote for Ms. Betty first, since you were nominated first. Can you call a vote? Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Ms. Cassell?
Aye.
Ms. Neumer?
Nay.
Ms. Mizzalobi?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Nay.
Mr. Snyder?
Nay.
Ms. Stewart?
Aye.
And myself, nay. Mr. Shaw? Ms. Cassell?
Nay.
Ms. Neumer?
Yes.
Ms. Mizzalobi?
Nay.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Starr?